And we are live. This is the news segment, Better on Draft Podcast, August 6, 2021. Thank you so much for joining us.
So,
hi.
Ken, did we let Dani in on what she has to do for the news?
Oh, yeah, that's
Rob's
right.
Not here?
She has to chug a beer for the news. A whole beer.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
You do?
Oh, shit.
Throw that cat to the left. Let's go.
Hold on. So, as always, when I say as always, I'm going to play the music and then you just chug the beer. Are you ready?
No. Okay, go.
As always,
here is Robear with the beer news.
No. Can't do it.
She went for it. It's okay.
You tried. That was good.
I did okay.
It is segment 2. I've got the Dragon's Milk White Barrel-Aged White Stout, which doesn't really exist. And I also got the EMBC Red House Collaboration Black Excellence, the barrel-aged version. So we're having fun tonight.
So I don't want to say bad things, but maybe you should just skip that one.
It didn't hold up after a year in the barrels?
That is pretty flat, and I don't want to say anything bad, so skip that one. Pick another beer.
Well, I already cracked it open. I have to drink it.
All right.
It is what it is. I bought it, so I might as well drink it. I know how we kind of shy away from saying beers that we don't like, but it's okay not to like a beer, folks. It doesn't mean that the beer is bad. It doesn't mean that the brewery is bad. It means you don't like that beer. That's all that it means. That's one thing. It took me way too long drinking beer to finally realize that, which is shitty too, because I would fucking drink Budweiser and Coors Light and Miller Lite with the rest of them. So here I am judging other people for drinking, beer. But this is the news segment. I appreciate you all listening live. Again, you can listen live 7 p.m. Eastern. We usually start the news at about 8 p.m. Eastern. I did have the news up because we don't have Rob today. Rob is busy doing other things, which means I have full control over the news, so you know it's not going to be good. With that in mind, the first article I want to talk about, and we've touched on it a handful of times here on the show, but Brewbound the Beer Institute surveyed about 1,500 Americans aged 21 and up, and 75% said nutrition labels should be on alcoholic beverages, while 60% said they are more likely to purchase if the information is provided. Paying to get your beers tested, as people know, is not a cheap feat, and with adjustments to the recipe yearly, should you go from smaller batches to larger batches, it just doesn't seem too feasible, especially if you're trying to follow whatever the Food and Drug Administration requires for food labels. So my first question to you guys, and we'll start with Dan, are you more inclined to buy or not buy an alcoholic product if there were caloric information on the label?
Yeah, especially in 2021. As we've talked about before, I managed to lose 60 pounds this year, and that's a big reason why is the damn beer I was drinking. It does suck not to know what's in a beer you want to pick up, and I know it's really tough for some of these little breweries or little anything to get that information because it is a process to do that. It makes it very difficult. I don't know, especially I've drank a lot of seltzers this year because of that. But like these brewery seltzers, if the information's not on there, I don't know if I'm walking into a seltzer that's like not healthy compared to like a Mick Ultra seltzer, a Corona seltzer, that sort of thing. So it really does make it difficult in order to buy some of those.
That is a very valid point, because I remember last year, I believe, I drank the honey seltzer from, now mind you, it's honey seltzer, so I should have realized it in the first place, but Witch's Hat, Be Well, had their seltzer, and I drank it, and then I realized the calories and the sugar in it, and I'm like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of me, the reason why I drink a lot of seltzer. What about you, Dani?
I don't think it would change anything for me personally. I know I drink a lot of beer. I know that it's something that does add to like weight gain and like overall health and lifespan. But my feeling is on beer, just drink it because you like it, not because of what's in it. I want to know the ingredients, not the numbers so much. I want to know where they came from, maybe. I don't know. And what's in it, what the hops are, when it was canned. But I don't really need to know the calories. I don't think it would turn me off from a beer. It certainly doesn't turn me off from eating cheeseburgers every weekend. So, no, I don't need it.
For me personally,
That's fair.
I would like to see, I would make better decisions if I knew the caloric intake. And it's not, I wouldn't buy it as much as I wouldn't drink a second or a third one.
That's a good point.
For me, I can't tell you the amount of times where and I guess there's a handful of beer calorie counters online where you could type in the ABV, is it a sweet or, just a regular like a lager or something like that where there's not any additives. And you can get a baseline calorie info from that. But for me, like for breweries, what I would love is if there was a general rule, not necessarily FDA approved, but even TTB, where it could say, hey, this beer will have roughly, and you give me 180 calories, 18 carbs, and that's it. Where it's not telling you how many it is, it's saying roughly. And it's basing it off of like an online calculator where like there's a fucking QR code on the Seek the Seal thing where I hit it and it takes me to the beer calculator of calories.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, actually.
That's a good idea.
Again, it wouldn't stop me from buying a beer. It would stop me from having a second or a third. It would be like, oh shit, this beer, which, this 16 ounce, barrel aged beer from Black Excellence from EMBC is probably 400 to 450 calories. So now
easily,
me knowing, oh shit, I should have one and that's it. That's what I'm going to have for tonight because I'm planning my calories that way. But that's also me who uses Chronometer daily and tracks all of his calories. I'd rather know what I'm getting into now as opposed to adding it up at the end. Because I will choose the very specific beers or seltzers or move to water or liquor earlier because that's just for me. And I think because of the way that we are counting calories a lot more in 2021 and we're more health conscious in 2021, which we'll talk about in the next segment, I think that's something that is necessary. But you brought up a good point of having the ingredients, which I think the ingredients would be really good to know. But also what I want as a little bit more general across the board, I want easy to read codes on every beer, knowing when that beer was brewed. Exactly
when and exactly the date that it was canned.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. I should say is the can date, not the brewed date.
Yeah.
I recall, so I was talking to Travis Fritz, owner of Old Nation, and I found a bottle of Double Dwarf over at a store locally. And what was crazy is that he said, and he was like, do you see I was like, there's no code on there. And he's like, oh, well, we only started coding in 2017. So shit. Off the top of the head, we know that beer is more than 4 years old. That's the same for the beer that I have. I have an Axel Red still in my fridge, and that's a 16-ounce beer of a brewery that's been closed for over 2 years, who stopped
Crack that bad boy open right now, Ken.
They stopped brewing 16-ounce cans 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I did go to that store again to see if they had the other 4-packs that were still there, but somebody bought it, or I complained to the right people where it was removed from the shelves.
That's like finding Brick Red at that liquor store right by the original studio. It's like, well, you haven't existed for a couple of years, so.
Yikes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think nutrition info, I don't need to know your recipe, but I would like to know if any additives you add on there more than hops, yeast, barley, whatever else. But we were talking about, being healthy and health conscious, and the big spenders, that is Constellation, who purchased Ballast Point. Yeah, Ballast Point for $1 billion. They invested in Hopwater, HOPWTR, I think is the logo on it. and it pushes them to the forefront of the non-alcoholic options. This is labeled as hop-infused water, so it's more on the lines of Lagunitas Hoppy Refresher, or as you let's see if I turn this way. Nope. The thing's still blocked. I've got 2 boxes of hop tea right there. I got more on my shelf behind me. I love my hop tea. So this isn't any NA beers. It's basically just hop infused water, hop infused tea. As the gates begin to open for NA alternatives that give you the taste of beer without the intoxication, this kind of brings up a question that we probably asked at the beginning of Better on Draft Days, and is, are we moving away from the dollars per ABV argument that we've discussed before, where people buy alcohol or buy beer based on the ABV you're getting? And I'll start with Dani.
I think we are. I think we are. I've never had the hop water or the hop tea. I have had the Lagunitas Hoppy Refresher. It's delicious. And I have had lots of NA beers, but I think we're moving more toward, for lack of a better word, sessionable lagers that are not so high ABV, but are big on taste and style and just delicious and across the board pleasers, because brewers drink lagers. Like, isn't that like kind of the rule? You don't find them hanging out at beer festivals drinking imperial stouts because you can only have like 1.5 and then you're done for the day. If you got to be there for 9 hours, you're going to drink a couple of way post Italian Pilsners. But I think we are moving away from that because people want to have more than one or more than two. And it's just not as important. The number is not as important anymore.
I mean, what about you, Dan? Like, you and I have definitely crushed some high ABV beers back in the day, especially in the older, Better on Draft Days, where we're drinking 10+% beers for 2 hours straight. Like, what's your, adventure? Because again, you said you were losing weight, and you can't do that with 10% beers.
You can, though, because here I am drinking 8% beers and like 12% beers.
Well, hold on. Let's look at last week's Stoli and vodka. The week before Stoli and
That's
water.
true. So I don't drink
and water. The week before Stoli, like.
That's true. So the difference is I'm not drinking 2 or 3 crawlers worth of 10 to 12% beer every night. But we actually talked about it last week. There is still that market for the high ABV, low dollar amounts. So like those 40s, those 32-ounce cans, those tall boys, that is still out there. I just don't think it's as prevalent anymore.
Well, let's look, because what's coming into the market right now is the RTDs, the ready to drink cocktails. Those are starting to explode in the market, and not to the level of seltzers, but way more than ciders and mead have ever done within the market itself, where people want a canned cocktail of a Moscow Mule, of a tequila sunrise, of something that, they would get at a bar, but they could have it from their house without having to invest in a fifth of tequila and a gallon of orange juice and making their own tequila. Like, you could just buy a 6-pack of tequila sunrise. Do you think that is changing the market to where people are still focusing on the ABV per dollar? Or do you think that that's just an offshoot of people moving away from your standard beverages because people want different options?
I think that's a separate market from the beer, someone looking for like a high ABV to low dollar amount. Because if I'm wanting a vodka soda, you usually don't think about ABV when you're getting vodka, you're getting bourbon, anything like that. You think about that with beer. It's like, oh, I got this tall boy, but it's like 12%. You think about that, but you don't really think about that when it comes to spirits. So I think those are two completely separate markets.
Maybe it's because the variance is so different. Dani, what do you drink spirits-wise?
I do like a vodka soda. I like a straight-up margarita. I like a sidecar and an Aperol Spritz. I'm very girly. I don't... But I agree with Dan. Like, I think that's a totally separate market. People who are looking for canned cocktails are not drinking beer. When I was on the train back from Chicago last weekend, I was listening to all these kids talk about their experience at Lollapalooza. and they were like, "Oh, you couldn't get a good cocktail."
When you say kids, you mean like 23-year-olds, right?
I do.
Okay.
And
Just
they were
needed to
like,
make sure.
children
Yes.
on a train. And
People
they're
like Ken on the train.
"Oh, I couldn't get a good cocktail. I had to settle for like wine." And I'm like, "It's 100 degrees out. Why are you drinking wine? Have a beer." Yeah, I talked to them about that. These are different people, and this is what they want. They want that stuff. I saw canned cocktails in England 6 years ago. So this is not new. It's new here. But that's what they want. They want that. They want a canned cocktail that they can just bring to some crappy music festival.
So RTDs grew 50% between 2019 and 2020. So it is growing as much as it's only 3% of the spirits market. I think it's going to grow a little bit more as people kind of not fade away from seltzers, but are looking for something a little more flavorful than like a faint black cherry on a White Claw or a faint watermelon on my White Claw. So I think they're going to look for those kinds of things, but I think you guys discredit a little too much the craft beer drinker who drinks non-craft beer, because the BA came out during their mid-year and said that craft beer drinkers, 90% of them drink something that's not craft beer in the alcohol category. Whether it's seltzer, wine, spirits, hard cider, what am I missing in there? There's a big one. Seltzer,
like macro beer?
Imports, I think, was one of them. But craft beer drinkers, aren't... First of all, they're not loyal to whatever craft brewery that they like because they want to try every single brewery in the world.
Yeah.
And especially if you want to try every single brewery in Michigan, mibeermap.com, download the app. It's free for you to use.
There it is.
There it is.
But I think the can of cocktails is going to be something that really takes over the market. But I think people, because those canned cocktails are only going to be for 5% ABV for the 12 ounces, so they're getting exactly what they want. So they're not necessarily worried about the ABV per dollar. But you're also like, I think gone are the days where there was a majority of people like me who was drinking Four Locos like 2 to 3 a night. And
were you actually drinking Four Locos?
Oh, for sure, especially at Nick's fraternity house.
No, that makes sense.
I could pay $4 and get a nice buzz the entire night I'm there.
I have never had one of those.
Oh, I've had enough.
Oh, you've missed out for sure.
Yeah. The craft beer drinkers drinking things that are not craft beer, would that include like macro brews, like national brews, or is that a different?
I don't think that was in the list of different things, because I think they were looking at alternatives that weren't. This is from the Brewers Association.
Okay.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I was watching the video of the mid-year update here before the show started, but I think that like craft beer drinkers are open. I think that's why the NA category is becoming a lot bigger, is because one, the craft beer drinkers are already more inclined to try it, especially because now the NA options aren't Heineken NA, Labatt NA, and O'Doul's.
Yeah.
And Sharps. Don't forget Sharps.
I would add that the craft beer drinkers are getting older too.
You don't. Do you not think that there's a subset of refilling craft beer drinkers on the back end as the younger crowd begins to get older?
Look,
the Gen Z, the kids at Lollapalooza.
I don't know. They really wanted those cocktails. I went to I won't name it, but a craft brewery around here that I didn't particularly care for. I didn't see anybody drinking beer. They were drinking cocktails. It was bananas. I couldn't figure it out. So I don't know.
Now you have me thinking of what brewery. Like, do I need to bring up the Michigan Brewery Map app, which I can search for breweries that sell spirits right on this app?
I'll tell you. Yeah, it's not important, but it's just, I don't know. I think a lot of us are in our near 40s. I won't say.
Who's in their near 40s?
Yeah, I'm in my mid 30s. Thank you.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Dan's in his mid-50s.
Not really, but
the end of the night, you've got heartburn already and you want to have another beer. No, just give me a 0 something. Let me have something to do with my hands. That's it. That's what you want, right?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, especially as we talk to like Two Roots, and we're going to have a few more NA beverage creators coming on as we get into Sober October territory, which we will not be sober in October, as the Better on Draft Beer Festival is happening on October 9th, and then the Michigan Brewers Guild Detroit Fall Festival is October 23rd. So sadly, we will not be participating in Sober October.
That's what January is for.
Well, there's Dry January, Dry July.
July?
Yeah, Dry July.
No one does that one. No one does that one, Ken.
Way too hot. Yeah.
I think this was a Canadian company that was telling me about Dry July. So
well, the Canadians can do that. They can do that all they want.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like Dry July 2nd to 31st, because you don't want to not party on Canada Day.
But what about July 4th? You got to drink all the
in Canada.
The tall boys in Ford. No, but I'm just talking in general.
We're talking a Canadian company. That's why I brought up January 1st. Pay attention.
The Canadians celebrate 4th of July too. So do everyone else, because yeah.
July 31st is my birthday, and I will tell you, I was not dry on that day in July. I don't remember much of it.
So I think we're kind of in an agreement that
Blackout July.
Yeah.
That the dollar per ABV argument is kind of slowly going away. People are kind of just deciding what they want. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing too with the options of different drinks in the coolers that you see at every stop. Where you go to Whole Foods, you go to Kroger, you go to Speedway. What up, Dan?
You know what actually piques my interest now is, we're all mid-30s and up, everyone on this show. We really need the opinion of like a 22-year-old. Are they looking for non-alcoholic drinks, or what's going on? I wish we had the opinion of someone in that age range to find out what actually happens.
I don't know any 22-year-olds.
Sadly. Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to go. Be like, hey, 22-year-old, come here. Like, I have no idea where to even go to find that.
I think even 22-year-olds are too old for TikTok too. So you might need to find a different app. Maybe they're on Snapchat. Like maybe it's that they're starting on Snapchat now.
That could be.
Any of those words, I don't know.
I mean, I watched enough TikTok myself, so I'm okay with admitting that, because
explain it to Grandma.
It's a website where people make very short videos that are either funny or informative or stupid or dancing.
Got it.
So yeah, it's there's a handful. My girlfriend actually somebody shared something that they bought from her Etsy store on their TikTok, which had over 100,000 views. And she was freaking out because she was getting a shit ton of orders. Like, I don't know what to do because I'm just one person making these handmade.
Nice.
So finishing up real quick, because this is going to lead into what our episode is for next week. That is Friday the 13th of August. The Treasury Department seeks public comment on competition in the alcohol industry. The current Treasury and FTC are looking to examine in the industry threats to competition, barriers to entry, and regulation within the industry. As I mentioned, next week, that's going to be a main topic because we're bringing in Dr. Trey Malone, who will be with us to understand the current economy in Michigan, along with Dr. Malone's theory on the impact COVID will have on the craft beer revolution.
I didn't realize Dr. Dre's last name was Malone. That's kind of...
Trey.
Oh.
Like what you hold your lunch in is a tray.
Oh, now I'm all disappointed. Wow. Okay.
Trey Cool from Green Day?
Yeah.
Is that who it is?
Green Day. Yeah, the drummer from Green Day.
That's who's on next week?
Or is he the bassist and Mike Dirnt is the drummer? One of the two.
I just completely derailed this.
A little bit. So Dr. Malone, not Post Malone, Dr. Malone, in his piece talks about allowing self-distribution to the consumers directly or indirectly through third-party apps like GoPuff. There isn't much to add to this topic, again, because we're talking about this before. We've talked about it. We're talking about this next week. We talked about it before, but I still pondered the question. And this is going to be something to, allow you guys to think a little bit. Why do we believe a lot of these laws still exist even in 2021? Why do these barriers still exist? Dan's shaking his head no. I feel like you have an answer.
Well, why do they exist? No, I don't have an actual answer. It doesn't make sense why stupid laws and rules like that do still exist. Think back to the no beer sales on Christmas Day. What was it? From 9 p.m. Christmas Eve to whatever.
PM.
7, whatever it was, Christmas Eve to the next day. Rules like that are stupid. They shouldn't really exist.
They're just ever a day when you need beer.
For those
Christmas Day, yes.
For those listening that might be out of the state of Michigan, there was a law up until a decade ago. Sundays you could not buy beer from a store until noon on Sundays. And part 2 of that law that got changed was that from Christmas Eve 7 p.m. until the day after Christmas 7 a.m. alcohol sales were forbidden in the state of Michigan. That was only a decade ago.
Was it even a decade ago at this point? I remember going to games on a Sunday, 1 p.m. start time. You couldn't get your pitcher of beer or anything until noon if you were like pregame. It was a bad rule, and it was hurting businesses.
Yeah, it was.
I'm trying to look it up, but as
it might be a decade at this point. It was a while ago.
Wow.
Yeah, this was it was signed in 2010, so I'm guessing maybe it didn't take into effect
11 years.
2011, yeah. So
yeah.
Or as you may say in short form, a decade ago.
All right. Terrible. But regardless, yeah, rules like that exist because of old laws, and for whatever reason, it takes a lot of work to change anything old or any law in general.
What do you think, Dani?
I mean, it's the same reason why Oak Park was dry until 6 years ago. What are we afraid of? Just progress? Like money?
Yeah, money.
They're being afraid of making money. I don't understand it. Like, why wouldn't you want something positive to come to your city and people to want to be there? Alcohol is why we have people. That's why cities exist. Like, I believe that. I don't get it. It just makes me frustrated.
I think and I tell you what, I will not die on this sword, but I will take the sword for everyone. I think this is twofold. One, if you're not going to fight against it, why change it? So people there wasn't enough of a vocal storm for people to even care. Because if you look at the changes of the laws that, and I can't think of Pauline Wenzel, we had her on the show last year, and she had all this huge tie bar, and the tie bar talked about all of the drinking in public, like open intox, or no, that was the other guy, that was Michael Weber out of Rochester, but like the easier delivery and distribution and all these laws that changed in alcohol didn't really matter until someone cared enough to make it matter. And as much as we care enough to make it matter, if it's not cared enough by the representatives that represent us in the state House and Senate, nothing's going to change. We talk about the Sunday laws. People have always complained about the Sunday laws, but until you have that representative that wants to take that extra step, nothing's going to change. Because Pauline Wenzel's law passed with like 98% approval. Like the only people who didn't approve are like really super conservative religious people and like pro-prohibition people. Like those are the only people, and they exist in our state.
2021. Or 2020 at that point.
that are against these laws. So it's one of those where you need that person, and the guilds that work in this state, do not do enough to help
Oh, no.
move those needles.
That's true.
It has been reliant on individual breweries like EMBC to really push hard to get their local representatives behind them to push hard to then get to where we are. But it's legislation that just literally will not change until something happens, and there will always be people fighting against it. Like the distribution numbers will be fought against by your Powers and Fabiano brothers and people who own that distribution channel and have money to own it. And I can't say all of them because obviously our friends at M4 and Oath would not fight against it. They were in support of the EMBC. But we know who they are. They know who they are. We know.
Yeah, they know.
So I think as 2021 continues, as COVID continues, we need to work on talking to our representatives and getting those local breweries. So it's not as much as me going to talk to, my local representative here in Ipsy, which I think one of them's like Debbie Dingle, I think. I should know better. That's terrible on me. At least I voted this Tuesday.
That'd be your U.S. rep.
Yeah,
Debbie Dingle.
I said Debbie Dingle. I'm like, shit, that's John Dingle's old spot, which means it's a U.S. rep and not the local rep. But again, I think there is a lot that we can't push, but I would need and want Arbor Brewing or Ipsy Ale House or Unity Vibration on my back to help me push it. But until you get it, you know who it needs to be? It needs to be Austin Brothers up in Alpena and their local rep, or Oddside over on the west side of the state and their rep. Because me, Ken, podcaster and website owner, is not enough. And no offense to Ipsy Ale House or Unity Vibration, they don't sell the numbers that these other breweries do that have the production that they do, because they want these smaller brewers to really have the ability to distro. They don't want Barrel and Beam to have to self-distro or sign a stupid lucrative contract with some major distro. That's why go back and listen to our most recent episode with Liberty Street. And as much as I say recent, this was 2 years ago. And you talk about the shitty situation that they were in because they needed to expand, and in turn got into a terrible deal with Powers, and I think it's Powers, and in turn had to literally sign their entire life away to get out of that deal. Those are the barriers we need to fix in our state. And the biggest one is delivery, mailing, distribution. If I fucking want some, we'll say 51st State Brewing, and I want it, I should be able to contact them and be like, hey, can you crawler some shit and send it to me? I'll pay shipping, because a lot of people will. And losing Tavor in the state, I think, has hurt a lot of people getting beers outside of the state. As much as brewers can distro to Tavor in Michigan, so Oddside can still go, or Austin Brothers, we can't get this. And I don't know. I'm spinning circles because nothing's going to happen until we do something as a whole.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before I close it for the night?
No, you hit it all. Honestly.
I would love to have, Monkish here, but
well, not even I would love to be able to order, because if you could order Monkish at home and enough people order it, Monkish would be like, shit, we need to do a drop in Michigan.
Yeah.
Because that's what Modern Times did. Modern Times realized, oh wow, a lot of people in Michigan are buying it. We're not going to distro year round, but we're going to do a drop once a year, once a half year. And that's it. They can plan for that, and that can get beer where it's not taking up shelf space for too long. They're selling it. We're getting it. But it all starts with them knowing that we want it. But who knows that we want it unless they enter the territory in one form or another. And and that's what Tavor was able to do, though. Tavor could easily, and I don't know if you get that information, but God forbid, if you're Drecker, previous guests on our show, and you see all these people from Michigan buying your beer, you should be like, shit, I should distro to Michigan. All right. I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. I've sat back down. That's going to do it. The news segment. Stay tuned if you're listening live for a quick version of King of the Hill. See if Dani can win a crown and run away.
This will be an easy win.
Well, it's easy for me because I'm amazing at this game. But that's going to do it. The news segment, 8/6/2021. We will see you Friday the 13th, live, 7 p.m. Eastern, Better on Draft. .tv or facebook.com/Better on Draft. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's
Better on Draft.
Better on Draft. Have a good night. Peace.